Find out what you like to do and give yourself completely to it.
My name is Tom Dean, and I'm one of the volunteer docents here on the USS Midway Museum.
Tom Dean was born in St. Louis, Missouri on November 18, 1937. He was forced to register for the draft when he turned 18.
We had no choice. We had to go in the military. All men over the age of 18 had to register for the draft.
His father, Clarence Dean, and his uncle influenced him to join the Navy, which he did in 1960.
And I didn't want to be in the Army. I wanted to be like my uncle was in the Navy, so that's what influenced me as much as anything.
Dean was accepted into the U.S. Navy's Officer Candidate School and received his commission as a Line Officer Ensign. He served aboard the USS Hancock for 18 months and was promoted to Lieutenant Junior grade in late 1961.
My aircraft carrier that I was reported to when I first was commissioned as an officer was in Alameda, California, the San Francisco Bay Area. And I remember arriving there on a hot August day with all my luggage and everything, and I couldn't believe the size of this thing. Then we had to go to work, and that was the hard part, because first of all, finding your way around a ship this size is difficult. That took a while. Getting used to the regiment of a ship. I mean, you eat at a certain time, you sleep not at a certain time. You sleep when you're not working. That's basically it. So that's the Hancock. All these years later, 2004, I come aboard the Midway. Same thing applies. We try to keep on the Midway as much of that flavor of being on a ship that's actually at sea.
He was later assigned to Beach Jumper Unit 1 in San Diego as Assistant Officer in Charge. Dean completed his active duty service in 1963. For the next 9 years, Dean's work with Trans World Airlines required moves to different cities. He resigned his Navy commission in 1972 when he accepted a position as Travelodge Hotel's Director of Public Relations. The opportunity also allowed him and his wife, Marge, to move to San Diego to raise their family. He eventually retired from the UCSD Extended Studies Division in 2001.
Don't retire from something, retire to something.
In January 2004, the decommissioned USS Midway aircraft carrier was brought to San Diego to become a public museum. In April, Tom applied as a volunteer docent and was accepted into the program.
And then one morning, my wife and I were having breakfast and she's reading the paper and she said, "Hey, they're bringing an aircraft carrier to San Diego and they're looking for volunteers." Well, I got to tell you, I almost knocked her over getting to the phone.
San Diego was the location of his fateful encounter with the USS Midway, whose history goes back all the way to World War II. The catalyst that forced the United States to enter World War II was the Pearl Harbor bombing on December 7, 1941. This fatal attack spurred thousands to unite in the war effort and prove the nation's powerful standing. Another pivotal event that occurred was the Battle of Midway. Allies scored a massive victory against Japanese forces near Midway Island from June 4th to June 7th, 1942, with the Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu carriers destroyed in the battle. The United States turned the tide in the Pacific theater by crippling Japan's fleet. As a result, the USS Midway was named to honor the historical battle. It took 18 months to construct the USS Midway, and she was finished a week after World War II. She was launched on March 20th, 1945 and served 47 years until her decommission in 1992. Her active service came to an end on April 11, 1992, when she was decommissioned at the North Island Naval Air Station. However, due to the persistent work of the citizens who vied for her, she was donated to the San Diego Aircraft Carrier Foundation in 2003. 12 years worth of effort had finally paid off, as the opening marked her humble beginnings as a museum and a home to the dedicated volunteers aboard. San Diego's precious museum has since evolved, because of the sacrificial work of the men and women who have contributed to its unforgettable experience. One such volunteer is Tom Dean.
She encouraged me to do it. She said, I know you're not really happy at what you're doing now. This sounds like it's right up your alley. And she was right. I think from the first moment I came aboard this little bucket, I knew I was doing the right thing.
After many hours of training and growing from the experience, Dean earned his docent title and continues to educate and entertain guests aboard the USS Midway Museum.
There's never a day where I don't have a chance to tell somebody something that would just knock their socks off and watch their eyes get bigger as I tell them those kinds of stories. That's very fun and rewarding.
Not only does volunteering allow him to follow his passions of teaching and interacting with others, it has most importantly restored his sense of relevancy.
I was on the beach with a book. I knew, though, within an hour that wasn't going to last, that was because I was no longer relevant. People didn't need me anymore. They didn't want to ask me any questions about anything. And so the Midway suddenly gave us back that relevance.
I had the pleasure of working with Mr. Dean as my volunteer in 2017. His selfless dedication and endless kindness has made me realize how essential volunteering is, not just to the Midway Museum, but to the community. We are able to experience a whole new perspective when we tirelessly devote the time, talents, and love to a cause that resonates within us the most. To this day, Mr. Dean has logged almost 6,000 hours, and it is with the utmost respect that I dedicate this documentary to him.
There's not been one of those days in all these years, 12 years now I guess it's been, where I got out of bed in the morning and said, oh gee, I got to go to the Midway. No, it was just the opposite, and it still is to this day. I get out of bed and say, boy, today's Midway Day. I'm ready to go. It's fun.